What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the What's Up Eddie channel, Divine Therapy Sessions. And of course, I'm the one and only Eddie. So glad to have you guys back. And these are my Divine Therapy Sessions. All right, guys. So I want to talk about a few things. But I just want to talk about, humanity in our future, right? Some things that come up for me when I was thinking about all this was this. So I think about our kids, right? You think about what our parents thought about us and then our kids. And so this I was thinking about how it is, because I always think about the programming that all of us have to have in our life, right? And the social conditioning, child conditioning and stuff like that. And I say to myself, so you think about, well, what's been coming up for me a lot is the problems in the world, right? And why they don't get solved, and why and you think about it in just even just in our family units, why do we have generational curses, right? If we can't solve the generational curse, how are we going to be able to solve? And it all starts up at a hierarchy, right? And I've learned this in the military, is that anything that starts on the top floats its way down. So you think about it in those terms, you can see it, with our governments. You can see it in our economics. You can see it everywhere, right? I feel like everything's integral with each other. Every moving part is a living organism, but they all work in tandem with each other. And so I don't think that there's any difference. And we should treat that I feel like we should treat that in the way that we live in our society, right? I feel like that if there wasn't greed and that there was more compassion and empathy, I feel like we would be in a different place in humanity. I think the problem lies with this, right? You think about our social structure and how we work with just finances alone. It tripped me out when I looked up the numbers, man. It's like the most saddening thing I've ever seen. So, and then this is, let me, here's better. So, I'm adjust the camera. So, check this out, guys. There is though it said there's 7.7 billion people, 7.7 billion in the population of the world right now. Okay. So, there's 7.7 billion. And there is, let's say, they said in the U.S. currency that's in the world currency alone, we're roughly about 1.2 trillion in the world currency. And the world currency collectively is 6.6 or 6.2 trillion. Okay, guys, with just those numbers alone, something's not adding up here. And it resorts back to one thing and one thing only, right? Well, and then it brings about two schools of thought, even after that. And you guys, I had a high school diploma. I had a spiritual awakening. I'm pretty intelligent, and I'm just looking at the numbers, and the numbers don't match for me. That's as simple as that, man. I'm just doing some simple math. Okay, so if there's let's just say that we're not even operating on the world currency. We're just operating on the U.S. currency, which is, what did I say? 1.2 trillion. And so if with just 1.2 trillion and there's 6.6 billion, all right, you guys, 1,000 billion is a trillion. So there's more than enough currency to go around. So it's not a currency problem. If you dispersed so much money to every person on planet Earth, we would be all right. We would be able to make it. But if you did that, I think that the social structure or the economic or structure, that the way that we have it going right now, would collapse if we did something like that. Because everyone would have to get on board, and if everyone got on board, that would mean that there wouldn't be superpowers. There wouldn't be these United States, these Britons. None of that would exist. Because we can't, for whatever reason, as in humanity, we feel like we have to fight each other. And for what reason? Greed, power, resources. Why? It comes from a place of insufficiency, lack, fear-based. That person may take it from us, so we have to take it from them. Mentality. And now this gets perverted and gross, you know, the further we get into it, and the smarter you get and the more intelligence you realize that the planet is, we're doomed. We're doomed if we continue this process. And I say this, you guys. So what I just told us right now in just the numbers and in ideology is that even at the top, there's a problem. You can see it. And then you see that, like, we have politicians who are getting into trouble, getting exposed. There's obviously a lack of trust for the people and the government, right? We see that with our police force. I'm not saying that I don't like our police force. I love our police force. I love our firefighters out there. I love these people. They do a job, but there are bad apples in everything, right? I also think that this is like off the subject, but like I do believe that, because I was in the military, man. I understand PTSD. If there's what are the guidelines and checks and balances on police officers and PTSD, because you know that they have it, and so why haven't we heard that? I don't even know why we're not talking about that, because police officers go through the same thing, and so my heart goes out to police officers. That's a whole different subject. If I went into it, I'm sure that like people will be like, wait, why didn't we think about that? But all right, guys, check it out. Getting back to the subject at hand. How do we get to a place where we fix humanity? So, look, man, I feel like the elephant's too big. Like, and for me, it's like I don't see myself as a political figure. And so, you know, what they say is like, man, if you're not in politics or if you're not helping in some way in that process, then how are you going to be able to change the system? I feel like as people, how can we change the system, right? Think about it. We're the ones participating. Who has the real power at the end of the day? I think it's us. People. Regular old people. What if we stop participating as people? How can the rest operate, right? Well, I'm sure that they'll be able to kick it in their castles, but I mean, beyond that, like, what if we just all stopped watching TV? That would change our economy, would it not? What if we stopped listening to the news? All of us, we just stopped it. It would change dynamics. It would change fear-based dynamics as well. I know the subject matter right now that I'm talking about sounds far-fetched, but I'm thinking about like let's just talk about 200, 300 years in the future. And the problem is that a lot of us aren't thinking about that. We're only thinking about ourselves. And this goes back to generational curses. There are some people who will never leave their kids anything, right? Money or whatever, resources in any form or fashion, because one, they didn't have it, or because they spent it on doing whatever they were going to do because they earned it, right? That's a curse. That is a curse. A curse not being able to being in lack or being in fear, or flip the coin, having so much but using it as a control mechanism. Those are both curses. I don't care what you say. Now, curses can come in any form or any fashion, but our families it all works with each and every one of us. It shows up differently, right? And some of it's same, we you know, obviously, but some of us have many curses in our families. And there's some really, really bad ones out there, and there's some, I don't think, like, obviously a curse is a curse at the end of the day. So how do we change it? Well, I think about it like this, man. I feel like if this happens with our children, I don't know I should probably have looked this up, but like, how many kids are born a day, are born a year? Okay, so because that's going to be our next generations to come, right? They're going to be, when are they going to start implementing, or are they going to be in society where they're going to start to be in effect? Anywhere from 15 to 25, right? So I feel like in a 30-year period, definitely a 50-year period or a 100-year period, we can change the outlook and the way that we do things on the daily. And if we just implemented some simple things, cut down on consumption, which is difficult because that comes from a place of greed. And when I just told you that greed is in the highest ranks, secrecy. You guys, if the world was going to end in 20 days, none of us would know. We wouldn't know when it happened. So, man, I believe that, like, hey, man, do I want to know that information? Probably not. Some of us don't need to know it because then that's going to cause chaos, right? And I'm not trying to cause fear or panic. What I'm trying to tell you is this: is that those secrets, if you believe in the high structures of what's going on planet Earth, yeah, it's already, you're already setting yourself up for failure. So what are the things that we can do? Because this is why I don't like talking about politics. This is why I don't like talking about our structure, our social conditioning. I do want to talk about our social conditioning, but I don't want to talk about those things because it seems bleak. Because I believe that it starts with us, you guys. And it is a spiritual experience at the end of the day. And that's why I say, with all that money and all those things of power and all that stuff, it's a pipe dream at the end of the day. It is not going to get you and I anywhere. And some of us will never see a certain amount of money anyways, right? Because we're following a generational curse. How do we break the curse is what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm a little shaky, you guys. I say this, you guys. You have to identify that you even have a curse, you know? And a lot of times we feed those curses and we don't even realize that we're doing it. Like a curse that we feed and we don't realize, and then we think it's funny or cute. It's like, so my last name's Sotelo, right? One of the curses have been like, oh, that's Sotelo anger, or that's Sotelo charisma, or playerness. Like, those are curses because and then we feed them like, oh yeah, we are charismatic and we can get whatever woman we want. Like, I'm not saying, I don't want to put that on our family, but like, hey, like, it's been said, and I'm putting that out there because I want to give an example, right? So, and that's just like I would say a superficial generational curse. But you feed into that and you're giving it power. Now, what if you're feeding into something like, we haven't had a millionaire in our family, let's just say in the last 2 generations. It's not true in my family, but what I say to you is this. That's something that's a mental breakdown, because and it goes on generation, whether it's subconscious because we pass things genetically, but also because check this out. If we're passing characteristics genetically as well as conditioning, that is a damn curse, you guys. So you have to change it with a spiritual experience, because your parents did the same thing as their parents, and they keep doing it and passing it along and along and along. And then we go off of like, oh, don't tell anyone outside of our family the secrets, our deep dark secrets. And I tell you, that shit is poison. That's the stuff that's going to keep you exactly where you are at right now. Look at, man. And some generational curses are ugly. Very ugly. Oh, all the women in our family are going to have to marry to be able to get out of the family and be successful. That's disgusting. Or another one is, if those boys ever want to make it out of this, they're going to have to be criminals. You see that in more of like our ethnic cultures, right? Or you see it in poverty cultures. It's disgusting, right? But it's a reality for some people. So this is what I'm saying. How do we change it? It starts with the inside job. You have to start with just the smallest things, and then it gets into bigger things. But I'm telling you, it's a mental process. In the mental process, and then from the mental process of what you tell yourself, because you're going to have to recondition your mind. And after you recondition your mind, you're going to have to recondition this, your heart. Your heart has to be reconditioned, because we have pain, trauma on this platform. This is why I made the channel, you guys. I believe that in 100 years, we can change the face of planet Earth if we implemented a spiritual, God-fearing planet. Now, look at that. Your problem's like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, check this out, man. But I do believe that then again, it goes back to power at the end of the day, right? Does it not? But I believe that, look at, man, looking at all those things that are more of the grand picture, right? Just you and I, man, how do we start changing ourselves? Because we're always looking at, nah, that person is that's person's fault. I'm here right now because my mom didn't do this for me, or my dad didn't do this, and then they're probably saying the same thing about their mom and dad. Well, I didn't get a good hand dealt to me. That's BS, you guys. I'm telling you this, man. Check this out. The good news is this, man. It's not all bad news. It's good. If there's that much money out there, and if you really just want to change your material gain, your material abundance, it's right here. It starts right here, Broseph. It starts in your mind space. And it's a conditioning, and it's a subconscious conditioning, and that's where we're run at. I have other videos on the subconscious and reprogramming it. Check that video out. But I feel like even beyond just the material platform, you guys, like, because we're all trying to manifest, right? We're all trying to utilize the secret or law of attraction. Some of us are using, magic. I feel like magic works. It's just a word using what we all do, anyways, right? And whether you call that water magic, candle magic, mirror magic, intentional magic, visualization, that's all magic at the end of the day. We just have different terminology for it. If you go back in the archaic days, because we're still archaic in my opinion, but if you go back just a little bit back in the way that they talk about healers, magicians, sages, stuff like that, we're no different. It's just the way that we say things is a little different. But I say the bigger change from here, you guys, is in the heart space, because what good are we going to be is if we gain all this money and we're like I think of like that Hobbit movie, what is it, Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit, where those dwarves are, they're greedy, right? They hold on to that money, and what good is it if it's hemmed up for a whole generation? That's what someone lives for 90 years. That's going to be held up for 100 years, a century. Why? Out of greed. And that's the problem we have with everything, is because but I tell you this, is that it's limitless. The money out there right now is limitless. There's more than enough, and you could almost say that there's an infinite amount, because you can't spend a certain amount of money anyways if you really thought about it. So you have to start changing your mental frame. The good news is this, you guys, is that you can end the curses with your generation. Look at me. I'm 34 years old. I didn't start this process of changing until the age of 33. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't a part of my kid's life, right? So I played into a lot of those dynamics. But at this point and now, you can change it at any point in time and start living in a new way, in a different way. And I'll tell you this, in the last 34 years of my life, or the last 33 years, have not been, I've had great experiences. I wouldn't be the person I am today. So I don't take that away from myself. But what I've done in the last 17 months in spirituality has changed my life immensely. I've done more in 17 months than I've done in my whole entire life. Now, the experience alone gives me the edge that I never thought I had, because all that trauma, all that drama, all that chaos, all that pain, all that adversity that I overcame, that's a degree in itself, you guys. We think about that stuff as if it was like something that cripples us. Yes, it does cripple you. It can cripple you if you allow it to. But I say that you can transmute that and move it into work for you. That's what I'm doing with this channel. That's what I'm doing with my life now. I've just changed the way that I think about things. I changed what I'm saying to myself. I've changed what I do on a daily basis. I've adopted healthy, successful habits. And I can tell you this, you guys, that stuff works. And that's why I say this stuff in any way that I can for you guys for it to catch on. And all you guys have to do is this, you guys. Watch the videos. It's progressive. Each category has its own way of reconditioning your mind. All I want you to do is to restart it, to turn it back on and start thinking about it in a different way. Because you guys, even if I gave you if I had a person right in front of me and they started agreeing with what I said, it wouldn't be enough for me to sit down in an hour period and teach someone about this stuff. This is a lifestyle. You have to be able to do this in and out daily. I say this, man. Give me 6 months to a year with any person, and I'll change their life. That's a freaking promise. That's a promise I can promise that from the heavens, because I believe that in 6 months, if you just followed a certain regime, you can change anything. All right, guys, I have just so many topics that I just talked about right now, so I'm gonna break those topics up. I just kind of I like breaking into a whole bunch of it, because I put it on video, so because it's all up here, right? And so I get it all out, and then I'll chop it up from each subject, and I'll go into details on each of those subjects. All right, guys. Hey, I love you guys so much, man. This world doesn't have to be a hell. I know that sometimes we live in it, and we're conditioned to believe that it is. But you can change it and live a better way. And I tell you, man, that your true divinity is in you. You're limitless. You are powerful. You're not powerless. It depends on how you perceive yourself. I love you guys so much. Make sure to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Hit the notification bell, you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right.